It was a rainy Wednesday morning in Claiborne, a small, predominantly white town tucked away in rural Georgia. The air was thick with mist, and the streets were still sleepy. Officer Ryan Kincaid was already on his third patrol of the morning. He sipped stale coffee from his thermos, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel, watching every pedestrian with a silent judgment. Ryan had served on the Claiborne police force for over 12 years. His reputation was built on discipline, results, and, although no one said it outright, a tendency to racially profile. He had never been held accountable, not in this town. His record was clean, but stories followed him like shadows: traffic stops that escalated too quickly, unnecessary force used during arrests, complaints that conveniently vanished in paperwork. So when he spotted a sleek black SUV pulled over near the courthouse, a vehicle too nice for someone who looked like that to be driving, his instincts kicked in. He hit the siren once, pulled over, and stepped out. The man inside the SUV was tall, well-built, and dressed in a tailored gray suit. Clean-shaven, confident. He was scrolling through his phone when Ryan rapped on the window. "License and registration," Ryan barked. The man looked up, puzzled. "Was I speeding?" "I said license and registration," Ryan repeated, his voice sharper. The man complied calmly. As he reached into the glove compartment, Ryan's hand twitched near his holster. "Slowly," he warned. The man paused, giving him a steady look. "I know how this works, officer." Ryan didn't like the tone. Confident. Too confident. A few minutes later, Ryan glanced at the ID: Elijah Brooks. Atlanta, Georgia. Still, something about this man unsettled him. He felt challenged, and that Ryan didn't tolerate well. A verbal exchange began. "You here for business?" Ryan asked suspiciously. "Yes." "What kind of business?" Elijah stared at him evenly. "The kind that requires discretion." Ryan's jaw clenched. "Step out of the vehicle." "For what?" "I said step out. Now." People had started to notice. A few bystanders were pulling out their phones. Ryan ignored them and placed Elijah in handcuffs. "You're interfering with an officer's investigation," he said loudly. Elijah didn't resist, but his eyes didn't leave Ryan's. "I hope you know what you're doing," he said softly. Ryan pushed him into the back of the patrol car and drove off toward the station, unaware that within the next 2 hours, his entire world would unravel. At the precinct, Elijah was fingerprinted and made to sit in a holding cell. Ryan filled out paperwork, trying to make sense of what charge he could use. But just then, the phone on the front desk rang. Officer Tina Mendoza answered. Her eyes widened as she listened, glancing toward the holding area. "Yes, sir," she said nervously. "Right away." She hung up and turned toward Ryan. "That man you brought in," she started. "What about him?" Ryan said, his voice still irritated. "He's the new interim police chief, Elijah Brooks. Just appointed. He's replacing Chief Donahue after his retirement." That was the mayor on the phone. Ryan's blood drained from his face. "No. That can't be. That guy, he was being shady. He gave me attitude." "He's a former FBI special investigator," Mendoza whispered. "Highly decorated. He was brought in to clean up internal issues. Effective today." Ryan's legs felt weak. He rushed to the holding cell and unlocked the door. "I didn't realize," he began. Elijah stepped out slowly, brushing off his cuffs. "Of course you didn't." Ryan stammered, "You should have said something. I wanted to see who I was dealing with. And now I know." The look in Elijah's eyes was not angry. It was disappointed. And that hurt Ryan more than shouting ever could. The next day, Elijah was sworn in as Claiborne's new chief of police. The press covered it. Photos were taken. But behind the scenes, Chief Brooks was already getting to work. He ordered a full audit of officer behavior logs, complaint files, and body cam footage. Within a week, the findings were damning. Ryan's name appeared too many times. Traffic stops with disproportionate targeting of black drivers. Missing body cam footage. Excessive force complaints that had been dismissed without proper review. Officers backing him up in reports that clearly contradicted community witnesses. The hammer came down swiftly. Ryan was suspended pending investigation. When questioned by Internal Affairs, his tone changed. The arrogance drained, replaced with bitterness and self-preservation. "I did what any officer would," he said. "These people, they always have an attitude." "What people?" Elijah asked during a private confrontation. Ryan didn't answer. But they both knew. Claiborne had long been divided by invisible lines. The Black and Hispanic communities often felt unsafe and unheard. But now, for the first time, someone was listening. Chief Brooks held town hall meetings. He met with local churches, business owners, and activists. He promised accountability, not just performative change. One night, a mother named Valerie spoke at the town hall. "My son was slammed against a wall by Officer Kincaid because he looked suspicious while walking home from basketball practice," she said, tears in her eyes. "We filed a complaint. It disappeared." Others stood to share their stories, quiet suffering that had gone unheard for years. Elijah nodded, taking notes, validating every voice. "It won't be swept under anymore," he promised. 6 weeks later, Ryan was formally charged with abuse of authority, falsifying police reports, and obstruction of justice. More investigations followed. 2 other officers resigned. Claiborne's police department was shaken to its core. The courtroom was quiet the day Ryan was sentenced. He avoided looking at Elijah as the judge read out the charges. 6 months in county jail. 5 years probation. Permanent revocation of his police certification. Outside, reporters gathered. One asked Elijah, "Chief Brooks, what message do you think this sends?" He paused. "That racism, especially in uniform, has consequences," he said. "And that justice doesn't care about what color your badge is. It cares about what you do with it." A year later, Elijah received a handwritten letter in his office mailbox. It was from Ryan. "Chief Brooks, I've had a lot of time to think. Prison humbles a man. I grew up with a certain view of the world. I didn't question it, just lived by it. But meeting you, being judged by the man I judged. I can't forget that. I don't expect forgiveness. But I needed to say I'm sorry. You earned the badge. I just wore it." Ryan Kincaid. Elijah folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. He stared out the window at the Claiborne skyline. The job wasn't done. There were still battles to fight. But in that moment, he allowed himself a breath. Because justice, or real justice, had finally walked through the front door.